Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 104 of the Purple Hyacinth podcast on the Story Tinker. And its title is already not very optimistic. It's called Time Tomb. And today we have Fwoot and Ocean.
Hello.
All right, so with that very cheerful title, there is a content warning, and I'm just going to read straight from the episode. So this episode contains graphic imagery of self-harm and depiction of suicide, which may be triggering to some readers. Viewer discretion is advised. So if that is something that you cannot handle at this moment, do not listen to the rest of the episode. It's a very intense episode. Okay, so start off with some crashing PS people and Kieran's hand holding a bottle of nitroglycerin. Looks like he basically just saved them all from impending explosion because they were probably about to throw that out the window, and he caught it probably out of their hands. So good catch, Kieran. Yeah, and there on the floor, he puts the bottle back in the trunk. Like you see the open trunks right by the window. It's clear that they've been having their little fiesta, throwing stuff out there. And after he does so, he just like doubles over and winces in pain and shakes, clutches his abdomen, clutches his side, and he is not doing well. Whew, it's hard to see him this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he takes a breath, he inhales, and he looks outside at the burning trucks. And I believe this is in the back, if I recall correctly. And he says, so they guessed the APD would try to enter through here. It's a dead end. Almost all of it is within throws distance. They set up an ambush, but why just here? And he looks more closely, and then he sees a tunnel. Is this where the Phantom Scythe backup came from? And we do indeed see a tunnel. And he says, so we have our way out. We're so close. And let me tell you, Fwoot, when I read this, I was like, tunnel theory. And everyone else was too.
I screamed when I saw that. I was like, oh my God. Because okay, Mindy, I've been doing the podcast for this entire arc, right? And I'm just on every single episode now for Fast Pass. So you know that I have been on a roller coaster with this theory. We were suggesting, I think it was some of the earliest episodes for this arc. We were like, oh hey, he's like, what if they end up in what if the factory does explode, and what if they do end up in the tunnels? And I found me saying this on the Discord from April 22nd. Today is July 6th.
April, May, June, July.
And it came out on the 5th. This episode came out yesterday for me, so on the July 5th. So I saw this and was like, oh my God. Because we were talking about it, right? We were like, oh my God, Luna's totally gonna end up in the tunnels, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was just earlier on in the arc. But then when we got to the late 90s, we were like, okay, probably not, scrap the theory. And I haven't really thought about that theory much until now.
Mm-hmm.
when they were raising questions hey, where did the Phantom Scythe come from? I was like, oh my God, this tunnel theory came from the tunnel.
We've been mentioning the tunnel theory for from earlier episodes. I don't even know if I posted all of them yet, but because of the messenger appearing at the Camarine Camellia out of nowhere, and what else was there that was another appearance out of nowhere?
There was Bella, when she came out of the bookcase, right, at Redcliffe's mansion.
Mm-hmm.
That was perhaps she came out of a tunnel, if he has a tunnel attached to his house. Maybe.
Right.
We were also in episode 91, we were questioning where Apostle 4 and the leader were, and we were they're probably they looked underground, so they were probably in some room connected to tunnels.
Their maps also looked like they had tunnels on them or something like that. And plus, in episode 38, when we talked about the Man Who Laughs, the comic book, the main point, the main method or plot of that comic is that the Joker is using the tunnel system, the sewer system, and he wants to poison the city's water supply, and he's using that. So that totally ties in.
Mm-hmm. And there was another moment, I think it's episode 65, Kieran mentions the criminal underground, and we're, as the audience, we're supposed to take it the Phantom Scythe's on the ground. We're supposed to take it as
metaphorically.
Yeah, the criminal underground, like the black market and stuff. And I think Kieran, that's also what he took that moment as, right? Or that's what he took that theory as. They're just black market and stuff. But when we go back and we'll reread that episode, if you'll ever do rereads, we'll be like, oh no, it's had a double meaning all along. And that's part of the tunnel theory. This theory has been around for a while. Like it basically turns a year old, I think, next month.
Nice. This is it's an amazing moment. I will say it must feel so good to be vindicated like that.
It did feel really good. I think I should probably clarify what the tunnel theory is for listeners who may not know. I'm just going to read what I put in the comments of this episode because people were asking. And I said, the tunnel theory is a theory that there are sprawling tunnels underneath the Artalis city used by the PS to move around undetected. This would be how the messenger entered the Carmine Camellia, as we were saying, as well as where the leader and Apostle 4 were located in episode 91. Earlier this arc, I theorized that the factory would eventually blow up and Loon would end up in the tunnels and be presumed dead by the APD. I scrapped it later on, but now it's back. So yeah, that's a theory on the brink of possibility. So do you guys, knowing what we know of what happens later, do you guys think that they're going to end up in the tunnels?
For sure. It's funny that you're saying that people didn't take what Kieran was saying literally, because I always thought that that he was being literal, because he lives in a cave, why would they not be in the tunnels? I had always read it that way, so that's so funny. I saw that the comment was tunnel theory, and I was just like, tunnel theory? I thought it was a thing. I thought this was right. a fact already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On Kieran's comment, I've seen some discourse whether he meant it literal or metaphorically. Most people I've seen took it as a metaphor, because
I also thought it was literal.
Yeah, and then I see it, I don't know, I'm kind of 50-50 on it, because I'm not sure if Kieran would actually be aware of this tunnel system or if he has even used it before. And I think I saw some people discussing it last night. They were saying that the Phantom Scythe, would it really make sense for them to make Kieran aware of this tunnel system and this way of moving around, because it gives him slightly more power that he can use?
He definitely doesn't seem to know about it here. He's surprised that there's a tunnel and he has to figure it out. He's not oh, that's the tunnel. He's a tunnel. So yeah, he doesn't seem to know about it.
Me though, because then when you think about it, if he kills someone and then he has to get away really quick, where do you go? The tunnels. So it makes sense that their most trusted assassins would know about the tunnels, or other important figures in the Phantom Scythe.
Mm-hmm.
So
but,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say if Kieran was if he knew about the tunnel system, right, and he was at least he was aware that it existed, right? I feel he would have told Lauren maybe at this point, because if they ever got ambushed or something, and there was that question of where did all these Phantom Scythe recruits or backups come from, and this is the first time that we've seen Kieran consider a tunnel, and it took him to actually see it before he considered it a possibility.
Yeah. And I have a judgment question. I'm going to question on his judgment, because he's oh, if there's a Phantom Scythe tunnel, we have our way out. I'm dude, are you planning to just go into a Phantom Scythe tunnel when they're actively trying to kill you?
I mean, it's better than nothing, Mindy.
Or it's better. I don't know. Better than being captured by the APD and trying to walk past them. I don't know. But I would take my chances with the APD over the Phantom Scythe any day.
Maybe the tunnels aren't crowded. Maybe they already evacuated everyone from it, so they're good.
Yeah,
that's probably what he's assuming, but a little nerve-wracking. Anyway, now he hears a which is our radio sound, and it's coming from the fellows on the floor. He looks around and he picks up one of the, I would say earbuds, but it's probably not an earbud. Whatever the correct term for that is. And Lauren comes limping out around the corner. He looks up at her, and she looks, amazing. She leans against the door frame or something, and she's clutching her arm, panting, sweating, she's just doing very poorly. And he, furrows his eyes, and Lauren looks around and is like, well, I see you didn't need much help, knocking them out. He's like, what happened? You look like shit. It's just like, thank you, Kieran. So it's a very sweet thing to say to a lady.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah. I guess. And at this point, she looks at him, and again, like, we only see one eye, just I think to highlight how out of it she is, and her vision blurs. She is really doing very poorly. I mean, she's obviously had blood loss, and who knows what other kind of physical trauma she's received to her body. And she like blurs out for a second, and then he comes back into focus, and she manages to come back with a retort. She's like, still better than you.
Lauren, you almost like, your vision is blurred and you have a bullet in your arm. I think Kieran's doing slightly better than you. We haven't seen any indication that he's about to faint.
Yeah.
Like in this moment.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if they're ever gonna start like doing the body count again. They're like, oh, I'm up to 20, I'm up to 25.
I don't know. I think Kieran's ahead on this one. I think he's above the limit. They can just stop counting at this point.
Yeah. And she's like, are you doing okay? We should leave. And again, that shows her concern. She's asking for him as well. It's not just one-sided. They're both really caring for each other and concerned about their physical well-being. And then we have a great break the fourth wall line. She's like, it feels like we've been stuck in this factory for 3 months. That was great.
I mean, she's not wrong. Like, yeah, this arc started what, in April? Like, it's July now, so it has been basically 3 months. A little bit less probably, but
it's really been April. I can't believe it.
I mean, I think so. Like, I can check when episode oh yeah, it says here that episode 94 was released May 17th, but I think that's for like
regular release.
Yeah, so that would have been April somewhere around the 17th.
Yeah. That's a long time. And then Kieran's like, he furrows his brows and he's like, wait, come listen. And they share, the other half of the transceiver, whatever, and which people have pointed out, it's like akin to couples sharing their headphones. So cute. The couple that, listens to music together or listens to radio broadcasts about how to explode everyone together.
So romantic. Oh my God.
Even Fwoot says it's romantic. It must truly be.
Maybe sarcasm. No.
No, it was totally genuine. I refuse to believe it was sarcasm.
Man.
And what I hear is, hold off the APD. Do not let them get to the basement. Secure the tunnel. You'll receive a signal when the countdown starts. Evacuate before the basement explodes.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, oh my God, the panel that follows after that, absolutely horrifying. Like, you can see the terror in their eyes. And when I saw this, I just, because of like, what they were saying, right? What they were hearing, and plus this panel, it immediately reminded me of one of the panels from the Carmen Camellia arc, when they are also finding out about the plans for the explosions, right? And here they're finding out more plans for an explosion right now. So yeah, and whenever the backdrop fades away and we have it against just white, that shows that kind of punches more emotionally, and makes us focus on just the emotions and like strips away all the other detail. And yeah, that's what's happening here. And then Lauren has her PTSD moment, and she vaguely is hearing in the background, I repeat, secure. And this is that's from the radio, right? Was that a flashback? I don't think so.
And now she's flashing back to the train station bombing, and we just see the orange panels, but the panels are of little child Lauren looking at the explosion and everything burning, but everything's distorted. It's like a Picasso, I think, painting where everything is just warped, and she's but dumping, and she's thinking, her rational self is thinking, snap out of it. Now we hear Kieran yelling Lauren, and she's just like, she's kind of like having a panic attack, and she's thinking, snap out of it. And she's still huffing, and then the images get more and more abstract. Like we have a sort of like what looks like an eye, which is again very much paralleling the eye that sees fire, which is the repeating motif throughout the story. The eye reflecting some kind of trauma, whether it's Lauren's or Kieran's. We have this a lot with people's negative experiences being seen through their eyes. So this is kind of a callback to that, and just like abstract waves. And then we see.
I just noticed. Is that belladonna like underneath the eye? Like there's some red and then it looks like pink, like even though with the filter, like Bella's lips and then her hair. Is that Bella? I can't tell, but maybe.
What do you see? Like I only see waves. So like what part of her are you seeing?
It's like the bottom half of her face. It's right. It's next to the B and the badump underneath the eye.
It's very abstract, but I feel like I can kind of see that because she does represent fire too, and it's a very like explosive scene. She can like picture Belladonna being the one like setting off the explosives here.
Well, I think because she's having flashbacks right now, it's she's flashing back to her conversation with Tim Sake when she got knocked out by Bella.
Oh yeah. The object in the hand kind of to the left right there near the waves. Is that what that is?
Maybe if it's any panel, it's this panel. It's the panel from episode 72, not 72, 52. It's a panel of Bella in 52 where she's reporting back to the messenger, and I think she has her hand up and kind of in a bit of, it's closed, and she's looking up a little bit. If you like go back to the episode, you'll see it. I think like
well, you'll have to do a side-by-side Fwoot because I have been staring at this the entire time, and I'm like, I maybe see a little bit of pink hair on top, but I'm like, otherwise I have no idea. But what she definitely does see very clearly, she sees Kim and Will, and those are the people that she cares most about, who are outside and who could possibly be exploded if this thing goes off. And these are also recent panels of them, from just the past arc. And there's more ba-dump, and it's just like overwhelming. So I've never had a panic attack, but I'm guessing that this is what it's trying to portray. And she's telling herself, snap out of it. And Kieran's again yelling Lauren the second time, and like his mouth is wide open. He seems very concerned at the fact that he's like yelling like that. And this is just giant ba-dump, more of the eye, and then she says, she thinks, I said, and we see in negative image, her grabbing the butt of her gun, snap out of it, and she jams it into her bullet wound. And I actually think it's brilliant. It's horrifying to watch, but I think it's brilliant because she knew she needed something to help her snap out of her state. And that intense pain that she would feel would make her snap out of it and bring her back to the present reality. And it's so Lauren, because she doesn't ever give in to her feelings. She always tries to, well, she does often give in to her feelings, which she references, but she is determined to do what it takes to survive, honestly, at this point, but to do the right thing and to do what she needs to do. And to the point of like, hurting herself. And it's beautiful. I mean, it just has the perfect effect on her and on us.
I think, yes, I think something interesting about her panic attack, I think we can split it into I would split it into two sections. It's the first panel where she's saying, no, I can't lose my mind right now, where it's the warped panel of her as when she was younger, looking at the wreckage of Allendale. And then we get the little interlude of Kieran yelling her name. And then we get the eye. So I guess it could be split into three with the eye in the middle. And then we get the scenes of him and Will. And this second/third part where it's Kim and Will is kind of fascinating to me because the image over them right now is Lauren as a child crutched over in the wreckage of Allendale, and this is when she finds Dylan's hat.
Hmm.
And so that is the moment where she realized that her friend had died, and then these two panels of Will and Kim are the exact moments that Lauren also thought that her friends were going to die.
Ooh, perfect. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, it's Kim falling down and Will about to get shot in the head.
Yeah.
Mm.
Kind of like her past and her potential future just blurring together in her eyes, and she can't even think clearly right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see just how deeply her pain at losing her friend still is embedded in her. And yeah, it's like it's not disconnected pain. You know, if she were to receive new grief, it would just be, you know, an extension of the previous grief. It's not like a separate incident for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this entire sequence is really well done. It is a marvel and a feast for the eyes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, like, this is amazing. This entire like sequence, this entire episode's like really good. So like props to Soph and F and the assistants.
Yeah. Whew. Do you want to take over from here, Ocean?
Yeah. So we see Kieran looking at Lauren. I think he knew how determined she was. He kind of almost looks like shocked by like the willpower she has and like what she has to do to really snap out of it. You see Lauren huffing and she apologizes. She said, "I've been here before and it made me panic." I think she's just thinking about the explosion and like the effect it can have on everyone in her current life. Because when you think about it, it really ruins her life up to a certain point, and she's really never been able to get over it. So I think if this were to happen a second time, I don't think that she ever would get over it. I think it would really ruin her as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. That look on Kieran's face, it's one of the rare, you know, I know we always talk about how Kieran has a mask on, and in this arc, he has been a lot more open than we've ever seen him. But to me, this is like incredibly, incredibly open for Kieran, where he's his, I mean, it's like a very, I don't want to say boyish look really, but very, very unguarded, very open, very present and real. And I think there's also respect in that gaze, because I think he understands what she's feeling, and he probably himself would do something similar in order to persevere in the mission. And I think it's just a beautiful expression of like mutual understanding and respect. And it's at this moment where I really think to myself that these two, you know, in many ways, Lauren did live a very privileged life, and Kieran doesn't seem to have lived that. We don't know his past exactly. So, but from a certain age, he did not seem to have a privileged life. And we always think that, you know, Kieran had, you know, the worst of it because he was tortured essentially, and made to do a lot of things that Lauren was spared. And while that still holds true, this moment just really brought home to me how much these two have in common, and how much they have shared emotional experiences and reactions and can understand each other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no.
think that's it. Yeah, that was really well said. Yeah, both of these characters, their trauma and their experiences have sort of, you know, ruined their lives in a bit, because even though Lauren does, oh my God, sorry, my voice. Even though Lauren does have a life of her own, right? You know, that's aside from Loon. She's, you know, she's in the police, she has friends. Her obsession with taking down the Phantom Scythe has sort of stopped her from sort of living to an extent, right? Because she has to hold this guilt and hold this trauma and sorrow with her, and she hasn't been able to move on yet. And so even though she does have what we would consider, you know, pretty good life, these things do hold her back. And then as for Kieran, like his whole life is basically the Phantom Scythe, and that like before he got the Archivist job. But even then, he still feels like he doesn't fit in, and so the Phantom Scythe, as you know, sort of symbolism for his trauma and is the source of his trauma, is still what's holding him back from leading a more fulfilling life as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lauren's physical life might be, you know, not difficult, but she has a lot of mental health issues that come from what she's experienced. And, you know, that pain is real.
I think that's something they can really relate to, though, because Kieran also has a lot of those mental issues where we see him in a lot of those panels looking at himself covered in blood, thinking monster to himself. So I think it's something they can both really relate to. And I think they both have a very similar drive. Like you said, I could see Kieran also doing that to make himself snap out of it and just focus on what they're doing and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we see Lauren and she says, I've been here before and it made me panic. And we see a flashback scene of when she was interrogating someone. I believe she was holding up the picture, trying to find out where Tim Sake was or who the driver was at this point. And she said, I won't let my emotions take over this time.
Right. That's from when they were with Angela, when she like flipped out completely and almost got them caught by the APD.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she probably experienced something similar to the sequence that we just saw, right? Because she saw the picture of Allendale, she saw her parents' car, and she probably got that hit of grief, right? Because of her parents, because that's when she realized that her parents, you know, there might have been something more to their death and it wasn't just an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, if she wasn't getting flashbacks from Allendale, at least she was at least reliving her parents' death.
Yeah. And also, I think that she's being very self-aware, because we always say on the podcast that Lauren's very impulsive and she, you know, has very strong emotions and she lets them get the better of her rational decision making. But she's aware, even at this moment, which is like incredibly difficult and emotional for her. She recognizes what her typical flaw is and says, I won't let that happen this time, which is quite profound for her to be able to think that way at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she there's more stakes this time, because when during the Onslow mission interrogation, they were still pretty early on in their loon career, and the stakes were still pretty high, but like, you know, if she failed there, then people probably weren't going to get bombed in that moment. But now lives are on the line and they do not have the time for this, and so she is showing more resolve now.
Mm-hmm.
Very great moment for Lauren. I remember one of the episodes we recorded together, it was the episode where Lauren sees Tim Sake again and she just explodes on him. So I remember just being like, when is Lauren going to learn? And I guess no time is better than the present. So yeah, I'm really proud of Lauren here. She just has a very pained expression, obviously from hitting herself, but she says, this time we're doing this together. Let's go alert the APD.
Aww. So sweet.
I know, she's got the sweat drops. Kieran looks so worried about her.
Yeah,
His eyes are shaking, which is not probably physically possible, but maybe it's like tears trembling in his eyes. Maybe that's that.
you know what this panel reminded me of? I've seen a lot of other people point this out, but Kieran's expression in this looks really similar to his expression in episode 78, like during the flashback when he's younger, looking at Chandelier Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's when like Chandelier Man is telling him that to not let them, as in the Phantom Side, take his soul, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
So parallels,
Oh.
maybe.
I'm trying to think of how that would be. Well, I think she's definitely his tie to humanity, and I think he's worried about losing her. So yeah, the Chandelier Man told him, "Don't lose your humanity." And Lauren, for him, and we know this 100% because of the what he writes, with the drawing of her, and he says, she reminded him of his humanity for a reason he can't understand. So maybe now him looking at her is like, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose her. She's my one tie to humanity.
I don't think it's necessarily healthy for Lauren to be like how he expresses humanity. I think she reminds him of what it's like to be human, but she's not the reason he feels human. She's not like, I don't know how to say it, but like, like she reminds him, right, of what it's like to be human because she treats him like a person, right? Not like the Phantom side. He can talk to her and they have conversations and he can like almost pretend to be a normal person around her, right? So that is what makes him feel human, not that like she herself makes him feel human, but that she opens the door and like gives him the opportunity for himself to try and become human, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I think he also just really admires her. I feel like I don't have any evidence for this, but I almost feel like he looks at her and sees a life that he could have had because he's good at this detective work and being stealthy. So I feel like in another lifetime, if he wasn't with the Phantom Scythe, he could have been a police officer and helping solve crimes. And I don't know, it's kind of like a what if kind of scenario. And he looks at her and just sees that happening, what his life could be, kind of.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
He definitely would be good at it.
I just want to like say that to clarify, that's not Lauren's responsibility to make sure that Kieran feels human. Like that's his own thing.
Yeah,
Kieran,
I know we discussed in the past.
Yeah, it's not great for him to be emotionally attached, or not attached, but like emotionally dependent on her.
Well, kind of hate to break it to you, but that's what relationships are like. I'm emotionally dependent on my husband. He's emotionally dependent on me. And that's, it's the risk you take when you choose to be in a relationship with someone. You do give up some of your, I understand what you're saying, because there has to be a part of you that is okay no matter what, right? You have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and be psychologically healthy without other people. But because we're human beings, we do form relationships with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Of course it's okay to rely on someone else emotionally, but I don't think it's healthy when like, you make them like the sole image of like, all of everything that you need emotionally, right? Where you rely on them and solely them.
Right. And I do think that in the context of this story, Lauren would be like a bridge. She would be the first step out, and then he would go on from there to hopefully develop healthy relationships with lots of people and get out of that Phantom Scythe or whatever. But like at this moment in the story, there's a lot of unhealthy things going on. So she's the step one.
Yeah, it's just like it's a bone I have to pick with like the whole like enemies to lovers trope thing and genre. Like, y'all, this is not a good healthy like relationship if you want it to become romantic.
Yeah, I know I know everyone has talked about this a lot, so we definitely we made the stance clear here.
I can definitely see therapy in their future.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We always say, what's the best ship? Every character and therapy.
Yep. All of them need psychological help and professional psychological help. I'm pretty sure F has said that therapy does exist in Artalis. So like I really hope that we see it like in comic.
That'd be cool. Anywho, guess you can continue.
So yeah, we see Kieran, and the next panel, I can't tell if this is from Lauren's vision and she's seeing things blurry again, because the panel's very blurry. But we see Kieran like stabilize Lauren. He grabs her and he says, "You're not alone either, detective. I got you."
Oh, Love this one. So beautiful.
Oh,
So
yeah.
cute.
I think it's like Lauren, right? She's kind of a bit unsteady, right? So her vision blurs. So Kieran goes behind her, right? Puts her hand like on her shoulder, sort of, or like on her
I think it's
side.
like underneath her, under
Yeah,
her
underneath her
arm,
arm.
supporting her.
And then like, yeah. So he goes behind her, puts his hand underneath her
Aw.
arm and helps her.
Is his arm around her? Okay, it's you don't have to take it romantically, but it's so sweet and it is so validating and beautiful. Yeah, and by the way, I also looked at that panel that's blurred out like a couple times and scrolled back to see like whose perspective. But yeah, it's definitely her perspective because it's the same columns, and I think she just liked that with him.
Yeah, and I was looking at this right while we were discussing it, and I was trying to figure out like what was going on because it's like Kieran kind of poofed from her vision because like where she's looking is where Kieran should be, but now like when he like puts it, but when you see the next panel, right?
Oh, okay.
I see that. Oh, okay. He went behind her. That's why he's not like in her field of vision anymore.
Thank you. I didn't even get that till right now, so I got it.
So yeah. I have a question though, because I've seen a lot of people saying this, and I personally like disagree with it.
Okay.
Where do you think Loon's gonna end up after this arc?
Wait,
right?
let's discuss it at the end.
Yeah, or should we save it for the end? Because we were kind of discussing this earlier, and I've seen a lot of people saying that they think he's good, that they think they're gonna end up in Kieran's cave. But I have a few qualms with that theory.
Let's totally discuss this at the end. It would be a great way to end the episode because I'm sure we all have thoughts.
I feel like this is like the perfect scene to just show like how determined and strong Lauren is. She's like dizzy, seeing blurred everything. She's still going and they're just like, let's go. We move on to the next panel when they're going down the stairs. And they're talking about with the amount of nitroglycerin that they have in the basement, the whole neighborhood will be turned into smoke. The APD and civilians need to evacuate as soon as possible. We have no clue what the countdown is. Gotta hurry. Bum, bum, bum again. We see them both running down the hallway. Blood dripping down Lauren's arm. And I feel like this is like really like what we were talking about last episode too. Like, what are they going to do? Because if they stay here any longer, the police department is probably going to capture them. I guess that's where tunnel theory comes into it. But yeah, she even says if I have to expose my identity and get arrested, so be it.
Which is very admirable. And it's she's down to the wire, right? So the choice is basically like life or death for her friends or getting caught. And she's like, yeah, of course. Before she tried to preserve her identity, but if the only other alternative is this is the way to save her friends, like she'll do it in a heartbeat.
It's an incredibly heroic moment for Lauren. Like, just even like she's not really doing much right now, she's just running like in her mind. Like,
right.
It's such a good character moment because she doesn't even have a doubt in her mind that she would do that. She didn't even question it, like if she's down to do this, because she knows that lives are on the line right now, not just the like police, right? Not just her friends in the police and her uncle who's outside and the rest of the squads, but a whole neighborhood, right? I'm still kind of confused on whether they're in the 11th precinct or not, because I always thought that this was taking place near the docks. So like I don't remember which one. So if it is the 11th precinct, it does seem like more of a residential area. So they are probably surrounded by a lot of homes and a lot of people who live in those homes, right? And so that would definitely raise the stakes because there are probably like families and kids, like all of those people could die if the femicide is successful, if they're at the docks, right? In like the 13th precinct. I mean, still pretty bad. We don't know if the 13th precinct is also residential. I would assume so. But there's also a lot of just industrial factories in this area too, which, you know, could lead to more damage if those get exploded too. And like, you know.
It would make sense that it would be in like some kind of neighborhood, because with the first bombing, it really targeted a place they knew a lot of people would be affected. So it makes sense that they would, for the second attempt, also try to blow up like a neighborhood. It's kind of like the next level. First, it's the train station. Next, it's the police department and a neighborhood. So they're really just.
Well, now that makes me confused, because we should really, I guess, talk about it at the end. It seems like they didn't, like we thought.
It wasn't meant to happen, because this is the glass factory is just where they're storing the bombs, right? They had no intention of, or not the bombs, but the nitroglycerin. I've seen people confusing it. When I say bombs, I mean nitroglycerin. You know, those little glass bottles, they're basically bombs.
Right.
But yeah, I've seen the bombs weren't supposed to go off tonight. They were just supposed to here.
So right. You're so right. That actually makes more sense than it being like a secluded place now, because then it's kind of like out in a hideout. That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah. Because they're in a glass factory right now, and this is just where they were hiding it, right? In the basement. And they had intentions to actually move the bombs somewhere else, right? They were saying how the date has been moved up earlier in this arc.
We all assumed it was the Radcliffe's ball.
Yeah. So like, I thought they were like, the bombing was moved up or something. It's been a while. I have to reread this.
Yeah. But that just made me question, why did they have this? Why and how did they have this like thing rigged up in the basement then with the timer? Did they just like bring it there when they knew that like?
I think it's the reason that the bombs are going off now. Like, it is a last ditch attempt to save themselves, right? Cover their tracks, right? Because they have been found out by Loon and the police department. So they need to, one, cover their tracks, and two, take out as many police and Loon members as possible, right? I don't know what happened to them saying that we need to capture one of the Loon people.
Well,
maybe the messenger just gave up after the last episode, because like,
well, there's a line that's coming up in a second that I think we could talk about that, because I had some questions there with that line. So let's continue on. Yeah. We'll have some more discussion.
Yeah, I'm just gonna finish off my thought, or it's like, yeah, so to save themselves, not the Phantom Scythe, but I guess Apostle 7's forces have decided that it's just too high risk to not blow up everything, because like this is their only solution right now. They have to get out of the situation. If it means sacrificing, you know, all their ammunition for whatever, then so be it. They'll have to figure out something else later on. Right now, what's most important is taking out Loon and taking out the police.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so we see Lauren, her resolve is set. She's already determined. She knows what she's gonna do. And she's trying to help this guy here, who she must know. She's saying, get out, alert everyone to get out now. The Phantom Scythe is planning to blow up the entire, bang, and we see this guy die before she even gets the sentence out.
And I also just realized she kind of caused his death, because he looked away from the doorway and looked at her.
Yeah, I just noticed that too. When we first see him, right when she's running towards him, you can see that he's retreating, he's moving backwards. So there is obviously something that he's moving away from, right? It's the panel where Lauren says, if I have to expose my identity and be arrested, so be it. Like, he's very small there, but you can see tap, 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 and he's leaning a bit backwards. So he is moving backwards. However, from what, we don't know. And then it's the Phantom Scythe dude.
Yeah, he's firing at them too, I think. Looks like he's firing at them, or ready to. So bad.
That's heart-wrenching. You can see the reflection in her eyes of him going down too.
Oh my god, I just noticed that.
Another one, right? Poor Lauren, all the things she has to witness.
Yeah.
Man,
Another thing
you
to
know,
feel. This time she really could feel guilty for it. We know she always accepts responsibility. This time it's like legitimate.
the panel of the guy being shot is like horrifying to me. Like usually I'm like I don't like, just out of sight, out of mind, but like I've just been thinking about it for the last day because it's just wow. Like his expression is like insane. Like the way Soph drew it. Not like he's mad or anything, but like it's just wow.
He also looks like a good guy. Like his
Mhm.
features are drawn like he looks like a nice person. Sympathetically, we're sympathetic towards him. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
It is sad. She must know him. She works at the police department too, so she can put a name to that face more than likely. Unless it's like the SWAT team, because the
Yeah.
SWAT team also came.
I think I'm probably is a SWAT guy.
Mm.
No, we know it's a SWAT guy because we see his uniform in the next couple panels.
Oh, okay, yep.
Man, Lauren's expression is heart-wrenching, like when she sees him fall.
Yeah, definitely a good thing there was a content warning here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kieran definitely notices too, because he doesn't even waste time. He's just like, cover me, and he just runs out there. And I'm assuming he kills the other person because they're able to run by, and he takes the SWAT members radio gear.
Oh, and he's like using the SWAT guy as cover.
Oh my god. Oh, I
yeah.
just noticed that. Okay, yeah,
that.
this arc is like kind of dark, so like I've been missing out on half this stuff until we do podcasts and I can actually get a good look at it.
Yeah, it's sad. You see he gets shot, like first he was just shot in the forehead, now he's like shot, knee, like two knees, one shoulder, on the arm. Like it's like it's callous and cruel, but also brilliant to use this dead guy as cover.
It's the only thing they can do though, like they're desperate.
It's interesting because you can see two sets of hands on him, so it almost looks like Lauren's pulling him out of the way too.
Wait, no, I think Lauren must be shooting.
Yeah, Lauren's shooting. Kieran has his arm
Yeah.
on the guy's shoulder and on his arms on the other guy's mouth.
Yeah, I'm just assuming it's Lauren shooting because she has the gun.
And he said, "Cover me," so she's covering.
Right. Ooh.
This episode was really dark.
This whole arc is like what has it been like 8 episodes now at the factory. Started in 96, but yeah, this whole I'm super excited to like just read through this whole thing and then start it over once all these episodes are out and just like see all those details and just see the whole action scene play out. But yeah, they both decide to take the stairs. So I guess they didn't get him because we still hear the shooting here, bang bang. Lauren shoots back. And then she gets on the radio and says, "This is Loon, get everyone out of the factory immediately. We've got intel indicating the Phantom Site is planning to set up the nitro in the basement soon."
Well, it's Kieran talking, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because he has the radio. He took it from the guy.
Oh, yes. See, that was going to make me wonder if it was Lauren talking, they definitely would have recognized her voice. I wonder if they would recognize Kieran's voice, though, because I know that he's newer, but he's been there for a while now.
He's not hiding it.
Well,
so
it's possible he is without Sophaneth telling us, but yes, probably not.
It's more important that people actually hear it than because Lauren said that she's willing to reveal her identity to keep people safe. So this is what Kieran's doing. He's revealing his voice.
Ooh, see, they're both doing that. They're both willing to risk their identity being revealed.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I think, by the way, Fwoot, I think at some point you're supposed to take over. I don't know exactly when, but
yeah, sorry, I don't know when that was either.
Oh, I'll do it when maybe like when they go on when they switch hallways. Now you can pop in.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah.
So yeah, we hear, I guess Kieran told them to evacuate the entire neighborhood because 100 nitro crates in the basement are going to go off. Chief Sinclair received the message.
Yeah, if it would have been Lauren, Chief Sinclair would have been like, Lauren, what?
Yes, for sure. I forgot that was him that answered.
I mean, that does raise the question, do you think Tristan knows that Lauren is Lynn? I fully believe that he knows her, that it's her.
Yeah, I don't because
Really? I mean,
the main thing is because I feel like we've been given clues that he knows something's going on, but you know, he constantly looks at her board, but I don't think he knows exactly because he keeps questioning. The only things we have of him is like him questioning, like, what's your angle? And like, we haven't gotten anything that he knows. And also when that episode with Dakin, when Dakin like basically hoodwinks him and it's obvious that Dakin's keeping something from him, then Tristan struck me as a little clueless when it comes to the people he loves. But someone had this theory at the time, and maybe it was you, where maybe Tristan is really like in the know and he's just pretending to be clueless all along, and like he was trying to chip up Dakin. So
yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
My theory is that Tristan's kind of playing a little dumb, right, to get information from people. Because like he's using his relationship with Dakin as a means for information. Because Dakin was like, he was just asking a bunch of questions in episodes 87, maybe 87 to 88. He was just, and like Dakin was giving him like really important information, like, oh damn, okay, like about the Phantom Scythe. And so, you know, that with like, you know, Tristan's probably like, does he have an ulterior motive? I would say yes, because there's also that moment, right, like the what's your angle scene, or not really scene, but like panels from episode 59. Because what's your angle kind of like what's his angle too, right? Like if Lauren has an angle, does he have one too? So like is he like, he knows his angle but he wants to know Lauren's angle? So like he seems like, you know, Tristan, like he comes from like, I would assume he's pretty smart, right? Because he's the chief of police, right? And his brother was a lawyer, so like, you know, his family's probably pretty smart. And Lauren's really smart, so you know, he probably has noticed something going on. And like, I would assume that he knows Lauren is Loon, even though we haven't gotten a lot of focus on him yet, is because like they live together. So like, you know, he has access to her murder board when she's not around. And like, and yeah, like he has noticed it. He does study it, like, you know, the whole what's your angle thing. Plus, like every time Lauren's out being Loon, he probably notices that she's not home. So like, you know, if she's not home one evening out doing Loon stuff, he'll probably get like a Loon briefing in the morning from the police. So like he must notice the pattern here.
He's either very clueless or very clever.
I really hope it's the latter. I have faith in Tristan. Also, oh yeah, also because he was asking questions at the Sinclair's funeral. He was asking Dakin like, do you think it was the driver, right? Do you think it was the driver? He thought it was a murder. He was right though. They were murdered, essentially, like kind of basically. They were.
Oh, interesting.
Like he was right in that sense, but whether Dakin had ulterior motives or not, he was just, whether Dakin was just speaking his mind or what he thought, Dakin was just telling him truth, like, you know, just general facts.
Yeah.
Like he just said, like, you know, the road is slippery, or sorry, the road was slippery and the conditions were harsh. Like that's not really an answer to, do you think the driver did it? That's just a general fact about the conditions and what the conditions were like when the Sinclairs died.
Anyway, we should get back to the episode because we have more episodes afterwards.
Did you want to take over, Fwoot? I don't want to like read this whole sequence on you.
Oh, sure. So yeah, where do we leave off? Tristan said this. Wait. Okay, so yeah, Kieran says no to Tristan when he asked if they had an approximation of when it's going to go off. Kieran said, no, we're currently heading to the basement to analyze the situation. And I think I can't tell who grabs who here. I think it might have been Lauren grabbing Kieran's arm because in one of the earlier panels, like a couple panels before, she was above him. Or sorry, she not above him, she was behind him. So the person reaching is behind the person. So I
But
think
then in the next panel, she's in front of him. So that's, I also
Yeah.
couldn't figure it out. So who knows?
one of
I
them.
didn't even know why either. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I
not like
thought
they were
that
being fired
Lauren
at.
had fallen here and like he was like trying to like help her. That's how I read it. Maybe. No.
Okay, so someone grabs someone, one of them grabs the other and pulls them to the ground just as a bullet hits right where they were. Like
Wait,
they
really?
crash. Yeah, you can see on the panel where it's them on the ground, there's a crash, right? We see the words crash, and then we see some lines and some marks that show something hitting the door. And I would assume those are bullets.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just lines from them crashing down, but I mean, the way that one of them pulls the other down, I was like, okay, they must be avoiding bullets, but I didn't see that. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe.
And then in the next panel with the radio, we do see something hit the ground and sort of bounce
right.
off. So it is something small. So it's probably a bullet.
Mm.
So from the radio, we hear Tristan saying, Group A, retreat. Group B and C, assist bomb squad and immobilize the threat. Hudson speaking, the enemy is holding us off. We cannot get through to access the basement. And Kieran says, they're coming. And Lauren says, I'm out of bullets.
Yikes. While her arm is throbbing again.
I feel like, okay, this was so cursed, but I have to share it because I thought it was so funny. Last night, someone said that Lauren's not actually out of bullets. She still has the one in her arm.
Oh, that was a sick comment. I'm sorry.
It was so funny though. It was out of pocket. Like,
That's brutal.
it unnecessary, but it was so funny. Lauren's she's out of bullets, except for the one in her arm.
She's not usable bullets.
So yeah. Then we see 3 Phantom Scythe people running down the hallway. They push open the door. Kieran grabs one of them and kicks them, and they fall off this balcony catwalk, whatever they're on. They got yeeted.
Right.
This reminds me of something. I'm trying to remember the scene, but I don't remember where it's from. Oh,
Ninja on the rooftop?
No, like someone just falling off, and it's like this kind of perspective. It's not from PH, it's from some show probably.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, one of the PS members, probably Kieran or Lauren, pushed them against the wall. They hit their head, and Lauren says, "Let's go." And they're climbing what seems to be down. Yeah, they're going down the stairs to get to the basement. Kieran is saying the Phantom Scythe is blocking the APD. They can't get through. And Lauren says, "God damn it. What can we even do by ourselves?" Like, this is very stressful for them because it's like, everything's sort of going wrong right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Her vision's going blurry again, and there's a lot of huffing from her, right?
Yeah.
She's breathing very heavily. And she thinks to herself, not yet.
No. She's just doing everything she can. Like, she's so determined to push through. And it's really a matter of like mind over matter, because her brain is just the only thing holding her up at this point. Her will.
I didn't understand that line first when I first read it, but rereading it now, I'm like, oh, so this is where she faints. She's lost a lot of blood, right? everything that she's doing is very physically strenuous. Like she wants to fall down right now, but not yet. She can't do it yet. Man, Lauren, you haven't even eaten anything since season 1. You didn't even get a sandwich. How are you alive?
That's the other ship, Lauren and food. Lauren and bed, Lauren and food.
Lauren with proper rest. So Kieran says, isn't it weird we haven't bumped into anyone going up? What are they planning?
So
And
yeah, that to me makes me wonder, like, I guess we could kind of discuss this at the end, but I'm wondering if there was more going on. Anyway, let's go all through this and we'll discuss some theories at the end.
What are they planning? And they reach the door to the basement, and Lauren says, whatever it is, we have to stop it. She grabs the door and yanks it open and is met with a younger looking Phantom Scythe member. And we see behind him, he set off a time bomb.
Yeah, and he's running towards him. And I didn't get it the first time, but after reading, I was like, oh, he's trying to run away and get out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hate this sequence. It's horrible, but it's also just something that I kind of want to talk about. So yeah, we see him running towards them because he was going to use the door as an escape. And we see the bomb that he has started. Lauren thinks a time bomb, and we see explosives, and this bomb is like ready to trigger in 9 minutes, 57 seconds, and 54 milliseconds.
Oh god.
So she pushes the Phantom Scythe person, like grabs them, throws them on the ground, and says this line, which he also said in the prologue to Chris Schaefer, who had also planted bombs in a theater. She says, tell me how to defuse this bomb, or I swear to God, I'll... She has this person on the ground looking up at her. It's a parallel to the prologue. Which may be interesting to whether they're actually successful here or not.
Good point. Or if it's a fake.
So I feel like I'm gonna forget that. So I'm just gonna say, like, do you think they're gonna be successful in like not detonating, but like disabling the bomb? Because she was successful, right, in the prologue. We get this parallel here to the prologue, right? She's trying to do essentially the same thing, disable the bombs. But wait, I'll discuss this later because there's more information.
We'll discuss our predictions at the end.
Yeah, okay. So then we cut to the bomb squad who are trying to make their way down to the basement. There's a lot of shooting. A lot of people are dying.
Yeah, they're not aiming at their wrists. I noticed they're aiming at their chests.
And someone in the bomb squad says, cleared, on our way to the basement. And then we come back to this Phantom Scythe member. Looking at them, they've got a scar on their nose. They've got a bit of stubble, and they look very tired. That's what I noticed. And
kind of reminds me of Harvey a little bit because he looks like the young person, and we don't know his story and how he got into the Phantom Scythe, but he's a very tragic figure already.
Yeah. Ugh. I haven't stopped thinking about this character. Like, there's, like, I don't know, it's hard to be funny about this episode, right? And it's like just because of what happens next. And this guy, again, he looks very tired. He says, you're Loon, right? How lucky. I guess I'll make you stay with me. And Lauren says, what? And Kieran yells, there are 9 minutes, 55 seconds left on this timer, a total of 9 wires. And then we cut back to the bomb. And now it's at 9 minutes, 54 seconds, and 38 milliseconds. And Lauren yells, which is it? And she's getting like super intense in his face right now. Which wire? And this guy just emotionless, because it's such a stark contrast, because Lauren and Kieran are both like yelling, right? And in both panels, there's a significance on their face and on their eyes, and you can really feel the intensity of their emotions. But this loon member, his panels basically stay the same. Like their perspective doesn't change. It's not very fisheye. It's just straight on. And he says, "It's too late, Loon. We only had 10 seconds." And we see the bomb is now at 9 minutes, 53 seconds, and 21 milliseconds. So 3 seconds left of those 10 seconds. I didn't understand what he meant at first, but I'll explain it afterwards. I think I explained it to Mindy last night too. We see the bomb squad running towards the basement, and Lauren says, "What do you mean? There are 9 minutes on the..." And he cuts her off and he says to get out. And this is a very triggering part. So again, anyone who has made it this far, this is your warning. Okay. Hopefully everyone has left by now, who would get triggered by this. You can never be too careful. So he brings a gun to his head, near his temple. I think it's a little bit behind his ear. And 10 seconds to get out. And we see the clock, and it's 9 minutes, 50 seconds, 46 milliseconds. So basically 10 seconds have passed. And there's a bang, and there's blood splattered. And there's blood on Lauren. There's a little bit of blood on Lauren's face. We don't see this Phantom Scythe member. We only see their blood, and we only see Lauren's expression, really. And we see that 10 seconds have passed in the next panel on the clock, where it says 9 minutes and just 50 seconds flat. And yeah, I didn't understand what he meant by this. I thought he meant that they were going to go, when I first read this, I thought he said that they were going to, that the bombs are going to go off in 10 seconds. And I was kind of confused because there was that disparity with what the clock was, which was, basically 10 minutes, not 10 seconds. But now, like, on my second reread, I realized that he himself had 10 seconds to get out, right? Mm-hmm. He had 10 seconds to leave that room. But because of Loon, he wasn't able to leave that room, right?
And the door is locked. Like the alarms have locked, and we have an extra panel focusing on that. And like we see, they hear clang, clang. And yeah, I mean, you can read on with the panels because it shows us what happens.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a very dark moment. Like, I would argue one of the darkest, if not the darkest moment in PH so far. And we have seen like dark stuff, like Kieran's backstory, all of that episode, like, all of those episodes pertaining to Kieran's backstory, and stuff with Allendale, and episode 91 as well with Bella and the implied hints to Bella's backstory. Dark stuff, but this moment just has hit probably the hardest for me. And like, I made this comment earlier that this guy, he looks young, right? But he has a scar on his nose. He still looks like relatively young, like Lauren's age. And I'm like, this guy, as you said, Mindy, we don't know his story, right? We don't know how we got into the Phantom Scythe, but he just died for the Phantom Scythe. He died for this cause, right? He died for what though? Like, to get a good look at Loon, right? He died, like, he didn't even really try to fight with Lauren to get out. He just accepted it.
Yeah, he didn't. I also was thinking that, like, he didn't try in those last few seconds to say, like, let's get out, or yeah. And also, like, even the fact that let's say he obviously didn't think he had enough time to get out, or they had enough time to get out, that he wouldn't be able to push past Lauren or fight with Lauren. But even deciding that once the door is locked, he didn't want to stick around maybe he felt he couldn't defuse the bomb. Maybe he doesn't actually know how to defuse the bomb, because, or he feels like being dead is better than being alive in a world where he failed his duty in the Phantom Scythe, and who knows what they're going to do to him if they find out. Because like theoretically he had 10 minutes, right? Even if they got locked in the room, he could have been like, okay, I'm going to save my own skin and I'll help you defuse the bomb. So maybe either he didn't know how, or thinks it's impossible, or he figured that life on the run from the Phantom Scythe and what they'll do to him is worse than what he could do to himself.
I think also people who willingly join the Phantom Scythe, right, or people who are sort of forced to join the Phantom Scythe as well, have accepted that they already live in the worst possibility, because if they're willing to join the Phantom Scythe, then, you know, they probably see it as something better than what they're already stuck in. And so people are willing to die for this cause. It's something that we see in everyday life too. You know, people who are very radical. They are willing to die for, and they are willing to kill for their causes.
It was almost like a suicide mission anyway, because he either fights a balloon or he goes out there where the SWAT team is, and he gets shot there anyway.
That's very true. Yeah.
The Phantom Scythe, I don't know. The Phantom Scythe, I'd say, is a suicide mission on its own, right? Because, you know, you're going on these missions, right? Almost like, you know, as an operative, you're basically sacrificing everything. You don't really live anymore, as you see with Kieran. You're still conscious, I guess. But yeah, this guy, like, I think the most unsettling part of it for me is that he looked content in where he was. Like, he was done. He was ready, right? He wasn't even questioning. He didn't even hesitate. He just said we had 10 seconds, right, to get out. And that's how we went.
He just accepted his fate.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't have to be young for this to be just horrible. But I think, like, also just know, like, seeing the aspect of him, like, you know, he looks like he's Lauren's age, and this is the kind of stuff that, you know, in this world that people are legitimately stuck in because of you know, because of the royals. You know, in, you know, the royals' policies and just everything about Artalis and living in Artalis, that they would rather take this fate, right? They would rather there are people out here who would rather die like this than continue on, because it's just easier.
Yeah.
It's hard. And I hope, it's going to be really hard to discuss, but I kind of hope that this moment is brought back and Lauren does have some reflection on this, because I think it would be good for her to realize that this person likely came from a situation that she can in no way understand, because she has not experienced it herself, and something more akin to something Kieran would have gone through. But I think that, you know, this moment is going to make her realize that, you know, the people who genuinely believe in the Phantom Scythe, people who genuinely will die for this cause willingly, right, and accept fate as they do it, and it's going to make her realize, like, or make her understand a little bit more about, like, why. Like, she's going to ask herself, why did he do that? Why is he like this? And, you know, her conclusion is going to be very important.
Yeah. We have about like 12 to 13 minutes. So we have like another podcast, so let's try to keep it to that time frame.
Yeah. So there's a thump and a clang. We we can see Kieran has gone to the detonator. Lauren is still on top of the guy. There's another thump, and it's the bomb squad trying to get in, and they go on the radio and they say, "Sir, all access to the basement has been blocked, sir." No, not Web 2, not loading the panels. Okay. And they're looking at this door and it's completely locked.
Yeah.
And we see Tristan's expression outside and he looks horrified or concerned, but I'm sure that he's absolutely horrified right now. We see Kim and Will and they look horrified as well. And Kieran's realization that they're stuck in here, as well as Lauren's. And both of them are looking up at each other and at the bomb, which is now at 9 minutes, 45 seconds, and 17 milliseconds.
It's
And-
interesting because I think these are like all the people who actually know who Lunar too. So
yeah,
they're
that's what I was gonna. Oh,
That's
oh my
interesting.
god, there was so much I want to say about Tristan panel. Yeah, I was gonna say, I like said this last night. I was like, I'm pretty sure like they focus on everyone who's like close to Lauren, but like
Mhm.
they didn't focus on Lucas, probably because he's out, but like, they focus on the people who I would assume know that Lauren is Loon, right? Or suspect or know that she's Loon. I said something about this. Let me see if I can.
Yeah,
find it,
you
but-
did, and you wrote this very, very long, emotional sentence
Yeah,
about Tristan that
yeah, it was
everyone
about
got very
Tristan.
mad at you for.
Yeah, I'm mad at myself for it too, because like, okay, I guess I'll kind of like summarize it, but like, because I really want to talk about Tristan's expression because like, oh my god, like I have also not stopped thinking about it like all day, because like we don't often see Tristan, right? He's a side character, right? But he's not like, he doesn't make a ton of appearances. But this is a very important moment for him because his niece, right? His family is in this building, right? Whether he knows it or not, again, I think he knows. That's my personal theory. He does know. So like, imagine like just assume he does know, right? And this is his realization that he's going to lose the last person in his family aside from Dakin, if he considers Dakin family. And I said like, okay, I'm gonna read the thing. I said, no, because Tristan's reaction hurts me. We see the reactions of everyone who suspects or knows Lauren to be Loon that we've seen, because we know that Kim and Will suspect her and Kim knows. Tristan knows Lauren is Loon, or at least very highly suspects it. Right now, he's listening to the radio, utterly helpless. He's listening to the panicked reports of two people who rushed off on a suicide mission to save the entire neighborhood. He's listening to his niece speak through the voice of another. He's listening to her suicide note, and he can't even hear her voice. And Lauren was the last person in his family. He practically raised her through adolescence and cared for her when she needed him most. They mourned together, they grieved together, and they lost together. Because, Lauren's parents and Tristan's brother and sister-in-law. And now Tristan is losing her too, and he can't even say goodbye. And that cycle of him losing his family continues.
Yes,
That
thank
just
you for
made
breaking
this
your
whole
heart.
thing so much sadder. Yeah. That was beautiful.
Mhm.
I feel bad for Tristan. Like, I really hope he's not fan of sight. This episode makes you think that it's not PS. But like, oh man, this poor dude. Like, he's lost so much. He doesn't get enough credit. But yeah, Tristan's expression. Literally one of I will be thinking about him for a while. But yeah, so we end off on this panel, right? So it's a big shot of the factory or the basement, right? With all the crates of nitro. And Loon are just so small compared to these crates. And the last thing we see is the time a little bit warped, and it's 9 minutes, 44 seconds, 43 milliseconds. And that's where we end off.
boy. Yeah. I just realized, like, literally 5 minutes have passed. Somehow, 5 minutes have passed from like doors locking and then like this thing. It's just
No, it's Mindy, it's minutes. It's minutes to seconds to milliseconds. So only 5 seconds have
second.
passed.
Sorry. Sorry.
If they had 9 hours, oh my god, I wish they had 9 hours to
Funny.
figure this out.
Okay, so in like 5 minutes or less, predictions. What is going to happen?
What was I gonna? Okay, wait. Do you think that they're gonna defuse the bomb, or do you think it's actually gonna explode?
I don't know. The only thing that I think I know is I think Lauren will faint and Kieran will have to drag her around, probably to the tunnels, because she's been shown to be blurring out all the time. So I do think she will faint and Kieran will have to carry her, which is the opposite of what we wanted last time.
I know.
Captain.
Where is Lauren carrying Kieran? Please, I need it. I need Lauren saving Kieran. Like,
I think we'll need that for a different,
a ton of
arc.
focus on it.
I don't think it's happening anymore.
Yeah. It's always Kieran or someone else saving Lauren. Come on, Lauren.
I have no idea.
Girl, you can do this. I believe in you.
I think the only way, I think the bomb will go off, but I think the only way, like plot wise, that the bomb will go off is if the APD manages to evacuate everyone in 10 minutes. Because I don't think that at this point in the story, there's going to be a massive explosion that kills a lot of people and her friends. I think that if the bomb goes off, it'll only be if they are evacuated.
Yeah, I think people are gonna, we don't know. Again, I'm gonna have to check where even in the city we are, because if it's not that residential, it's gonna be pretty easy to evacuate people. But if it is super residential, this is a city. Like, there are a lot of people around this area. Like, I can see people dying, like a lot of people dying. Not like in like a ton, but maybe like on par with Allendale.
That's a ton.
I mean, what, 200 people, right? 200 deaths in a very residential area. How many people live in a building?
Yeah, that's true. It would be like one
in
building.
one building. How many buildings surround this area? So and they only have 10 minutes. Like, can you even evacuate people in 10 minutes?
No, it's the middle of the night. They're probably sleeping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's I don't even know how they're going to do that. So yeah, I personally really hope the bomb goes off. Because I want them to end up in the tunnels, because that would literally validate me so much and literally be like the exact thing that I was thinking. Because that's also how Loon can fix their whole we need to fake our deaths problem, right? And that was supposed to be what they were supposed to do this season, right? They started off this season okay, we're gonna have to find corpses and whatever, and then we waited 50 episodes and they didn't do anything. So I'm really hoping that this is how they fake their deaths.
Yeah, and I think story wise, it'll make a lot of sense.
That's great. I didn't even think about that. That's so smart. I was horrified when you just said that you hope the bomb went off.
So yeah, also I want Loon in the tunnels, because I've gotten so many people on that theory where they get in the tunnels, are presumed dead by the APD, right? So
yeah,
that would be oh my god moment for me. But yeah, so I hope the bombs go off, because also I want to see the characters deal with failure, right? I want Loon to realize that they failed to stop the bomb, and if they're in the tunnels, they have no idea who actually survived or not, right? They don't know how many people were evacuated.
God, so much pain.
They don't know if Kim and Will are alive. They don't know if Tristan's alive. They don't know if Lucas is alive. All of those people, I want to see them grapple with the fact that they, for once, have failed as Loon. And yeah, they have to have their ups and downs as Loon, right? But they've done a pretty good job so far, right? As Loon. They've gotten a lot of information to lead them to Apostle 7, and they've acquired information that could help tons of people, right, of future bombings. So they've generally always been pretty successful as Loon. Maybe not in their relationship, because that episode, but they've done pretty good. So yeah, seeing them deal with failure would be really interesting, because I think this would be a really good time with it, to see how our characters grapple with that. And then I want Will, like Will's whole arc is like learning that you can't control stuff, right? And to accept that's part of his arc. I want Will to have that moment where he realizes that he was pretty helpless during this arc, right?
Right.
He couldn't do much, and you know, he doesn't know if Lauren and Kieran are alive, if he knows that Kieran's the other lead member. So he's gonna have to grapple with it. Like, he couldn't stop it and he couldn't fix it, right? And now he thinks that Lauren is actually dead, and that leads me to Kim. I think Kim, I've been saying this for a while, I think Kim is going to deal with a lot of guilt after this arc if she believes, like, even if Lauren is still around and she knows Lauren's alive, because you know, if Loon was able to safely evacuate the building, who knows what would have happened, right? But they couldn't have evacuated the building because Cam, in the moment, even though it was Herman who ordered it, she's the one who decided that they were going to do this now. She was going to try and arrest them, and that is what ended up holding them back, right? Because Will and Kieran went off to fight, right, and do and chase each other, and then Kim followed Lauren, and they had to go on this whole detour to you know, Kieran and Lauren to avoid being captured by or arrested by the police. And then, you know, that's literally like right as Kim was about to take off Lauren's mask, right? That's literally when the Phantom Scythe showed up. So, you know, Kim, I can see her, like, even though like it wasn't her fault that the Phantom Scythe did show up, and there's no way she could have predicted it. I feel like she will sort of blame it on herself, because what she did kind of did snowball into literally everything that's happening right now.
Yeah. Anyway, we have to go to our next podcast. So if anyone has a final thought, we can do 10 seconds.
Shoot. Before I forget, okay. There was the theory, right? People were saying that they're going to end up in the cave. I don't think that they're going to end up in Kieran's cave, because one, I don't think that any of the tunnels would lead to it, right? So there's not like a direct way to get to there, because I don't know, it'd be kind of weird if the Phantom Scythe had a direct link to Kieran's hideout. And then, like, you know, both Kieran and Lauren are injured, and last time in season 1, Kieran could only carry Lauren like across a precinct. There's no way like he's going to be able to carry her across the entire city, because his cave is westbound, but right now they're in the 11th precinct, and if they're in the 13th precinct, that's even more farther east, so that they're gonna have to cross like the entire city, like in the wide
Can't do that.
So yeah, there's I don't think that they're gonna be able to make it to the cave. It's just too far away. Yeah.
Well, this was a crazy episode. Thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, can't wait for next week.
Thank you for having us. Good luck on your next podcast, Mindy.
Yes, Ocean's doing the next 2 with me also, if she still has energy.
Nice.
Thank you so much for having us on, Mindy.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. Oh, it's been great. A lot of anxiety.
Yeah, such a good episode.
Yes. Okay, well, thanks so much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.